So I decided to do a quick little room tour. This isn't the room. I'm just showing you the bookcase in this room. So this is what I'm calling the sitting room. I honestly want to make it more of a yoga room. You can see my yoga mat in the corner there, one of my yoga mats. And so the sofa, I want to move to the other side where the yoga mat is right now. Um, Mostly because there's a heater, like I have baseboard electric heat in this place, and the baseboard heater is behind the sofa at the moment. It's summer, late summer, early fall. Doesn't matter too much at the moment, but it's going to matter soon when the heat is on 24/7. We have pretty cold winters here. So anyhow, you're going to see my kitchen very briefly. Well, I guess I might as well. It's not the most spotless at the moment, but you get an idea of how nice. That's Mozart in the background, by the way. I don't think I can get in trouble for this because it's public radio. I love listening to public radio. This is the Syracuse affiliate. So there's the other bookcase. So this is what. When I moved in here, I was like, okay, this is my home office, but I didn't like that. And I struggled with this for a while and I didn't know what it was. I kind of knew, but not enough to do something different. But I've come to realize I just don't like the term home office because for me, like I grew up, both of my parents were self employed, and my father was an accountant and he had an office in our house. So that was before home offices were even a thing, but because he went into business for himself as an accountant, we had an office in our house, and there's a lot of stressful memories associated with it, both him building it and us trying to help, and that was stressful. That wasn't really his forte, if you know what I mean, but he did his best. But it could be a little stressful. And then, like during tax season, it was always really stressful. So, this was only a few years of my childhood. And then he did get an office space in town. I grew up in a small town in rural upstate New York. Anyhow, I don't need to tell you all of that. You don't need to know my life story for me to show you this room now, which I'm calling my writing room because, as you can see, my writing desk is here. I have this cool screen right here. Just I'll show you this. So there's nothing behind that except my printer and a couple of bags of stuff that I need to take care of. But it's kind of handy to have this because if I'm going into retreat mode, for example, this would also be useful if I had a house guest because I can always use this as a guest room. Like we can have an air bed in here, and I'm thinking about buying something, a day bed or something but I don't know, it's kind of tight the way it is, so I might just leave it as it is. Most of the people I know are cool with sleeping on an air mattress, and if they're not, then I can always do it. They can have my room. But anyhow, so this is the screen. There's a printer back there. It's not turned on at the moment. I'm actually going to turn it on because I've set myself up for greatness here. I've told, well, it's not really a story. I've told the story of how I started using that phrase, and the story is only that I have an online yoga teacher, Adrienne Mishler, aka Yoga with Adrienne, who uses that phrase, and it's a phrase I love because I love this idea of like her whole vibe as a yoga teacher is like, so her kind of catchphrase is find what feels good. So the idea is like you can trust yourself, trust yourself to find what feels good. Leave aside all of the shame messages and all of the, let your inner child out to play. And one of the ways to do that, but still stay on track with your adult life, your adulting things that you have going on, is to set yourself up for greatness. And that means leave your yoga mat out like I did in the other room, if that's possible, or have it where it's easily accessible. Things like that. And like right now I have like my writing desk set up. So that's why I just turned, so there's an example of what I mean by setting yourself up for greatness. I turn my printer on because even though I'm not printing something at the moment, it gives me the feeling of like, so I meditated this morning and I had some tea and I sat out at my deck and had a nature connection moment, or many moments as I drank my tea. And I had a little breakfast, and I think I mentioned that I meditated, but in any case, it's now later in the morning and I decided, well, I'll film a video. That'll be my shift into like activity mode. And so that's why I turned my printer on, because like I am taking a course and I am doing some work and there's a chance I might need to print something out, and I'll be working in the other room. I like to sit on the sofa in the sitting room. With my laptop. I have this cool lap desk that is very cozy, and I work very well in there. But that's one of the reasons I call that the sitting room rather than the living room, because I work in there a lot. And I was like anguished by this shows you how sensitive I am to energy and things, but well, I was in denial about it at the time. But the point is, like, I would be sitting in there in my, what I call the living room, what most people would call the living room, at least here in the States. And I would be working all day and I'd feel like such a loser because I'd be working in there all day. And then I'd like be sitting in there with a different laptop, watching a show or a movie or something. I'd be like, all I do is sit on this couch. I'm such a failure. That's all I do all day. It's like, oh my gosh, you're literally running a business, keeping a business afloat in this economy. Like, I don't know. It's just so funny that I was so hard on myself, but it wasn't funny on the time, that's for sure. Anyhow, here are my books that I moved in here to make this less of a home office and more of a writing room / reading room, because that's really what I want it to be. So here's where I do my writing. This is where I do like my creative writing, like my blogging and the novel that I'm finishing up and getting ready to put out on Amazon. And like, these are a lot of my books, and I think I already showed you that I have more books in the other room. But yeah, this is where I like to write, and this is where I like to handwrite, because I journal. My journal's not in here at the moment, but this is where I sit a lot in the morning, well, usually in the morning, to journal. And I have a couple books there right now. I guess I can show you the books. These are one of my pairs of glasses. But so one of these books is called The Enlightened Mind, and it's edited by Stephen Mitchell. So it's like a little anthology, like a little hardcover anthology, slim anthology of various spiritual teachings and poetry and things like that. And then Meister Eckhart. I love the title of this book so much. So I'm going to show it to you because the artwork is amazing as well. Meister Eckhart, From Whom God Hid Nothing. Wow. Oh, I just bumped my head on my lamp. Okay. Anyhow, Meister Eckhart is a bit difficult, but very amazing as a writer. There's actually a podcast called Turning to the Mystics, and there's a season that's on Meister Eckhart. So if you want to dip your toe in to a Christian mystic that wrote and like gave like he was like a monk, I guess, at the time. No, I think he was considered like a Dominican friar or something. So this was like in the Middle Ages, thereabouts, in Germany, I think. But anyhow, so this is what I was talking about in another live stream that I can't remember if I left it up or not. I had to take some down because of some sound issues. I'm going to try to live stream later today, but yeah, I'll have to like apply what I've learned and make sure that the sound is good when I do that. Hopefully some people will drop by. I've got some new subscribers, which is exciting. But just, I did want to talk about books. I'm hoping to draw a lot of like bookish people. So I really was just thinking this morning about how I want to reread this book here, Emma, because I rewatched Clueless recently. It's actually available for free on YouTube. I mean, with ads, but I mean, a basic ad blocker takes care of that. But Emma, yeah, so if you don't know, this movie Clueless, starring Alicia Silverstone, from I believe the 90s, early 90s, and Paul Rudd, and a really wonderful cast, Brittany Murphy, in I think one of her earlier roles, and she's just so good. But yeah, it's based on a Jane Austen novel. It's based on this Jane Austen novel, in fact, Emma. And Cher in the movie, played by Alicia Silverstone, that the character is named Emma in the Jane. And it was so interesting to rewatch this movie after having read and reread Emma so many times in the years since I'd seen this movie, because I was so young when I saw the movie. But yeah, you can really tell, even though Amy Heckerling is such a great writer and director and updated the characters and the dialogue so much, like it's so recognizable. Like Cher's relationship with her father is very similar. I mean, in a different way, in a totally different time and place. And in the book, Cher's father, what would be Emma's father, is like a hypochondriac. So they nod to that in the movie, where Cher really does take care of her dad. Like it's one of the ways you see that she has a good heart, even though she has growing up to do. So, even in the movie, she's like, "Oh, Daddy, did you take your vitamins or whatever?" So that's very similar to the book, and that's not something I would have recognized when I saw this movie when it came out, like 1994 or whenever it was. I don't even know. Anyhow, these are my books that I have in here now. And I'd love to talk about them with people if you are into books. If not, we've got other things to talk about. But right now, I think that's good. I just wanted to show you what I had done with this room and how, since this is where I usually live stream from, this is where I'm usually sitting. So when my skin is looking very white from from the sun coming through so if you've seen that, I usually have to have this blind closed when I'm live streaming because I just have very pale skin. So it's my Scottish ancestors, I suppose. But in any case, I'm not complaining. So this is my room, and this is where I live stream from. And I guess this is a little announcement that I'm planning on live streaming again soon, perhaps today, perhaps tonight. I've been busy. I have some new projects in real life going on, and some cool collaborations with people I've met in real life. So that's super exciting, coming from like someone who has been living a very monkish lifestyle the past few years. But in any case, I'm gonna peace out. Talk to y'all later. Bye.